Welcome back to the basement. I'm Steve Lewis. This week, we begin winding up our look at the very eventful year of 1975 with a look at music and news in the months of October, November, and December. Let's get started right away with a look at the first album chart of the quarter. On October 4th, 1975, Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd is in the first of 2 weeks at number 1. Wind Song by John Denver is at number 2. It'll go to number 1 for 2 weeks, beginning October 18th. One of These Nights by the Eagles is the only album still in the top 10 from the beginning of the third quarter. It had been number 1 for 3 weeks in August. It's currently at number 3. Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen is at number 4. It'll go to number 3 for 2 weeks, beginning next week, October 11th, behind Wish You Were Here and Wind Song. Promotion and Springsteen's tour continue. In November, he'll make his first appearances in the UK and Europe. The week of October 27th, Springsteen will appear on the covers of both Newsweek and Time. Janis Ian's Between the Lines had been released back in March. The single, at 17, had propelled it up the charts. It had been number 1 the week of September 20th. It's currently at number 5. At number 6 is Win, Lose, or Draw by the Allman Brothers Band. It'll peak at number 5 for 2 weeks, beginning next week, October 11th. At number 7 is Red Octopus by Jefferson Starship. It had been number 1 the weeks of September 6th and September 27th. And will be number 1 again the weeks of November 1st and November 29th. Pick of the Litter by the Spinners is in the first of 3 weeks at its number 8 peak. As discussed, Fleetwood Mac have their first U.S. Top 30 album. It's currently at its 1975 chart peak of number 9, but its run on the chart is far from over. It'll return in 1976, going to number 1 on September 4th. More about it when we discuss 1976. And rounding out the top 10 is Honey by the Ohio Players. It had been number 2 last week, September 27th. And turning to hit singles, Fame from David Bowie's 7-month-old album Young Americans is in the second of 2 non-consecutive weeks at number 1. At number 2 is I'm Sorry by John Denver, which had temporarily knocked Fame out of the number 1 spot last week. Rhinestone Cowboy by Glenn Campbell is at number 3. It's his first top 10 since It's Only Make Believe 5 years earlier. It's winding up a long run in the top 10, having entered at number 7 on August 9th. It had been number 1 for 2 weeks, beginning September 6th, ahead of Fame. Run Joey Run by David Geddes is at its number 4 peak. At number 5 is Mr. Jaws, a Dickie Goodman drop-in record playing off the hit movie, of course, with a reporter asking questions like, Mr. Jaws, what did the girl swimmer say when you grabbed her? And answers from popular records like, Please, Mr. Please. It'll peak at number 4 next week, October 11th. Bad Blood by Neil Sedaka is at number 6. It's a pretty good single that even Neil Sedaka says is a hit because of his background singer, Rocket Records president Elton John. It'll be number 1 for 3 weeks, beginning next week, October 11th. At number 7 is Ballroom Blitz by Sweet. The song had been released in the UK and Europe in 1973. It was released in the US and Canada in June 1975. It'll hit number 5 on October 18th. Dance With Me by Orleans is at number 8. It'll hit number 6 on October 18th. Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady by Helen Reddy is at number 9. It'll go to number 8 next week and stay there for 2 weeks. And rounding out the top 10 is Rocky by Austin Roberts, which will peak at number 9 next week. Top 10 singles that will come and go in the fourth quarter include Jefferson Starship's first hit single, Miracles, which will spend 3 weeks at number 3 beginning October 18th. Feelings by Morris Albert will hit number 6 on October 25th. It Only Takes a Minute by Tavares will hit number 10 on October 25th. Elton John's Island Girl will go to number 1 for 3 weeks beginning November 1st. They Just Can't Stop It, Games People Play by the Spinners will hit number 7 on November 8th. The Eagles' Lion Eyes will hit number 2 on November 15th. Who Loves You by the Four Seasons will spend 2 weeks at number 3 beginning November 15th. Heatwave and Love is a Rose by Linda Ronstadt will go to number 5 on November 15th. It's listed as a double-sided hit, The B-side is an otherwise unreleased Neil Young song. The A-side had been a number 4 hit for Martha and the Vandellas in 1963. This Will Be by Natalie Cole will go to number 6 on November 22nd. It's a song I never really paid much attention to. Natalie Cole wasn't cool, and it just seemed too mainstream. Listening to it again while researching these episodes, I realized it's actually a pretty excellent record. The Captain and Tennille are already back with a second hit single, The Way I Want to Touch You. It'll reach number 4 on November 29th. Lowrider by War will spend 2 weeks at number 7 beginning November 29th. Sky High by Jigsaw will spend 2 weeks at number 3 beginning December 6th. The Bee Gees' Nights on Broadway will hit number 7 on December 13th. Simon and Garfunkel issue a well-written and performed but very bleak one-off reunion single, My Little Town, which will go to number 9 on December 13th. Turning to albums, with one and soon to be 2 number 1 hit singles, KC and the Sunshine Band's self-titled album, released back on July 6th, is starting to climb the chart. Released on October 1st is Trying to Get the Feeling Again by Barry Manilow. It'll spend 2 weeks at number 5 beginning February 7th, 1976. Also released that day ahead of the holidays is Rocky Mountain Christmas by John Denver. It'll do well for a Christmas album, going to number 14 on December 27th. And released on October 3rd is The Who by Numbers. The album is critically praised for Townshend presenting more introspective and personal songs. As usual, Townshend had written a bunch of songs and given them to the band, who chose the ones they wanted to record. He said this time he was surprised by some of the choices. Much later, it struck me that some of the difference on this album might have been down to Daltrey. After recording his very un-Who-like first solo album and appearing in Tommy and in the soon-to-be-released Listomania, he may have been willing and eager to tackle song styles that he never would have attempted before. The album will spend 2 weeks at number 8, beginning November 29th. Released on October 14th is Lazy Afternoon by Barbra Streisand. It'll spend 2 weeks at number 12, beginning December 20th. Also released on October 14th is Breakaway by Art Garfunkel. It'll spend 2 weeks at number 7, beginning November 29th. And released on October 17th is Still Crazy After All These Years by Paul Simon. Both the Garfunkel album and the Simon album contain the new Simon and Garfunkel single, My Little Town. And on October 20th comes Rock of the Westies. After taking great care and nearly a year to complete Captain Fantastic, Elton John is surprisingly back with another album just 5 months later. There's also been a shakeup in the band, with longtime members Nigel Olsson and Dee Murray gone, replaced by a new drummer and bassist, along with a second guitarist and a second keyboard player. Many of the songs seem superficial, with cartoonish character sketches and meaningless imagery. Some of them are unnecessarily long, seemingly in an attempt to make the album appear fuller. The whole thing feels very dashed together. Fortunately, at this time, Elton John can dash together an album pretty masterfully. As unsubstantial as it is, it's an enjoyable ride with a few excellent tunes. Elton John had undertaken a short fall tour in support of the album. It began on September 29th in San Diego and will end on October 26th with the second of 2 memorable shows at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. The album will repeat the never-before-done feat of Elton's last album, Captain Fantastic, by entering the chart at number 1. It'll stay at number 1 for 3 weeks. Besides introducing the new band, I think part of the rapid follow-up to Captain Fantastic may have been because that album had so few potential singles. The singles from Rock of the Westies, while not his most critically revered, will do pretty well on the chart. And by the way, it took me at least 40 years to tumble to the fact that Rock of the Westies is a mashup of West of the Rockies. I believe the correct term is duh. On October 24th comes Shaved Fish. With no new album forthcoming, John Lennon becomes the first of the former Beatles with a solo greatest hits compilation. Holiday sales will help push it to number 12 on December 13th. He'll soon have company when Ringo's hits compilation, Blast from Your Past, is released on November 25th. Ringo's album will only reach number 30. Also released in October, Feels So Good by Grover Washington Jr., following up on his hit Mr. Magic album from earlier in the year. On December 20th, this one will also peak at number 10. Also in October, Brass Construction's self-titled album, it will eventually reach number 10 on May 15th, 1976. In early November, we get a couple more greatest hits packages ahead of the holidays. History, America's Greatest Hits on November 3rd, and on November 10th, Chicago 9, Chicago's Greatest Hits. Released on November 11th is Gratitude by Earth, Wind & Fire. It's a double album with 3 live sides and 1 side of new studio tracks. Released on November 14th is Rufus featuring Chaka Khan. It'll hit number 7 on March 6, 1976. Released on November 25th is Family Reunion by the OJs. It'll go to number 7 on January 17, 1976. Also released on November 25th, A Night at the Opera by Queen. This is the album that begins Queen's Imperial phase. It'll spend 3 weeks at number 4, beginning April 17th, and naturally we'll talk much more about it when we get to 1976. Released on November 28th is Numbers, a Pythagorean fairy tale, Cat Stevens' concept album about numbers. It'll reach number 13 on January 24th and stay there for 2 weeks. Wake Up Everybody by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes is released on November 29th. It'll become their highest charting album, going to number 9 on February 28th, 1976. Also in November, Joni Mitchell follows up her massive hit albums Court and Spark and The Live Miles of Isles with The Hissing of Summer Lawns. And there are a couple more greatest hits packages, Helen Reddy's Greatest Hits and Seals and Crofts' Greatest Hits, which will go to number 11 for 2 weeks beginning January 3rd. And there are a couple of albums that will take a while to reach their chart peaks. In November, the Soul Soul Orchestra's self-titled album, it'll spend 2 weeks at number 14 beginning April 10th, 1976, after their disco version of Tangerine becomes a hit in the spring. And released on December 15th, Mothership Connection by Parliament, which will eventually spend 2 weeks at number 13 beginning June 5th, 1976. On October 30th, Bob Dylan opens a new concert tour of the East in Plymouth, Massachusetts, dubbed the Rolling Thunder Review. In contrast to his last tour with the band in 1974, his intention is to keep the tour low-key and informal. With many guest stars joining the tour, including Joan Baez, with whom he hasn't performed in over a decade, and with word getting out that Dylan is playing new material, the tour doesn't stay low-key for long. On December 8th, the Rolling Thunder Review plays a benefit at Madison Square Garden to raise funds for a possible retrial of former boxer Reuben Hurricane Carter, convicted of murder. The event is known as the Night of the Hurricane. The Rolling Thunder Review will roll on in 1976 with a second Carter benefit in January and a second leg of the tour beginning in April. More about that when we get to 1976. Having toured with the Rolling Stones as a guest earlier in the year, on December 19th it's announced that Faces guitarist Ron Wood is indeed joining the Rolling Stones as a full-time member, replacing Mick Taylor, who departed a year earlier. A short time later, it's confirmed that the Faces are splitting, with lead singer Rod Stewart planning to devote full-time to his burgeoning solo career. And on December 20th, Joe Walsh replaces Bernie Leadon as a member of the Eagles. Now, turning to some notable news in the fourth quarter. On October 1st, Muhammad Ali defends his world heavyweight title against former champ Joe Frazier in Manila, the Philippines, in a bout known as the Thrilla in Manila. It's their third and, as it turns out, final match. It's also their most brutal, with Frazier's trainer Eddie Futch stopping the fight after the 14th round, despite Frazier's protesting that he wanted to continue. Much later, Ali will admit that he didn't think he could continue and that Frazier quit just before he would have. Ali retains the championship. With the holiday gift-giving season approaching, a lot of people are undoubtedly about to give or receive one of the year's big fads, the pet rock. They had been introduced earlier in the year. They're rocks packaged in a box with air holes and straw bedding. They come with a booklet titled The Care and Training of Your Pet Rock, with tips like, if your rock is excited, place it on some newspapers. It will remain there until you remove it. And the best place to train your rock to roll over is on the side of a hill. Reportedly, over 1 million pet rocks are sold at $4 a piece during the roughly 6 months the fad endures. You might also be hoping for one of the new Pong home games from Atari. Pong had been developed as an arcade game back in 1972. Beginning this year, you can purchase a console that will hook up to your home television so you can bounce the little digital ball back and forth to your heart's content. It was around this time that I first encountered the Pong arcade game. Often when something new comes along, it's hard to spot the potential. But I have to say with this one, it seems like almost everybody immediately recognized that Pong was the beginning of something new that was bound to become bigger and much more sophisticated in years to come. More traditional and much less expensive new toys include the popular Steve Austin's $6 Million Man figure from Kenner. It's a hit and the line will be expanded over the next couple of years. Not to be outdone, Hasbro introduces its own bionic character, Mike Power, Atomic Man, as part of the G.I. Joe Adventure Team. Like Steve Austin, Mike Power has a bionic arm and eye. Unlike Steve Austin, whose 2 bionic legs allow him to run at 60 miles per hour, Mike Power has only 1 bionic leg, which we used to presume allowed him to hop at 60 miles per hour. And that's where we'll leave it this week. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. As always, I look forward to your feedback. I hope you'll join me next time when we'll wrap up 1975 with a look at movies, television, the Beach Boys, and music at year end. Meanwhile, please hit like if you don't mind, subscribe if you haven't. Have a great week. Bye.